Hello everyone and welcome to Face Off. This is going to be happening right before the start of the Pro League and right before we finish the end of the play-ins as well. Those of you who are wondering what's been going on in the esports scene, we finished all 10 weeks of our qualifiers leading up to the Pro League. Of course, we had our kickoff lands in both EU and NA regions. We, of course, have China, Latin America, and Brazil all trying to get their own teams ready for the Smite World Championship. And with the release of the Odyssey, I want to just jump into how things are happening.
Yeah, so right off we have the 4 teams qualified from both regions, and we're going to add 2 more through the play-in. But let's start off with kind of what happened with the North American kickoff LAN that happened just a couple days ago. COG Red comes out, wins it, first place, 4th seed.
That's right. So we had the same thing happen in EU as well as NA. So the EU Pro League kickoff LAN ended up happening there in Cologne, Germany at ESL Studios, and the 4th seed ended up winning as well. And one of the top seeds ended up being dropped out completely. So a bit of an upset. Kind of the younger underdogs, the ones that ended up taking it all in EU. And the same thing happened in NA. We saw COG Red, 4th seed, going up in the first round against their sister team, Cognitive Prime, who was first seed and dominated. Then came into, of course, the grand finals, going against team-dignitas seed number 2 and dominated again. Went 3-1 in the finals, 2-1 in the semifinals, and winning it all. They're all very young and very excited to have those wins there. So, I mean, realistically, we saw how much depth there can be in the esports scene.
Yeah.
Smite.
I mean, even if a 4th seed team that, I mean, Cognitive Red took 4th place 6 out of the 10 qualifying weeks. They never even made it to the finals. I'm kind of wondering, are they actually as good as their performance was? Was it a fluke? And personally, I think they performed better than any of them have ever played, and I think that's their potential as a team and as players. But I don't think they can stay consistent with it, DryBear.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm actually going to go ahead and put the call out onto the other teams. And realistically, I think the biggest reason why COG Red won that entire LAN is because they were willing to adapt. You saw that in their play. They would change their bans every game. They would look to shut down specific plays. They would pick characters that counter things. They started changing their items. It seemed like they're very malleable, whereas the veteran teams that were more rigid, thinking, oh, we're just going to come into this and win. They gave no respect from Cognitive Red. I met with every single team before the tournament ended up happening. Talked even to Cognitive Prime. They said, you know what, we're not worried about COG Red. We're going to win this easy. It's going to be a 2-0. We're going to go straight into the grand finals. It's not going to be a big deal. And all of a sudden, they end up winning game 1 and then lose game 2 and game 3. So it realistically is just the fact that COG Red, and this is what happened in the semifinals, they lost the first game. In the finals, they lost the first game. But every single time, they were able to adjust their strategy to be more specific to who they're going up against, and they were much more malleable. So the call-out goes to the teams that are much more veteran and much more practiced to just kind of do the same thing, right? Prepare ahead of time. Give respect to every team you go up against and try to get that victory because COG Red is hungry, and they're going after it. I
mean, I talked to them. They didn't expect to win. They didn't prepare to face... They didn't prepare to face anyone other than Cognitive. They did not watch VODs on other teams. They did not specify strats ahead of time. Obviously, like you said, they had strats that they decided, when it came to time to play. But they didn't prepare. They didn't even know that they were going to win.
That's right.
None of them expected it. I didn't expect it. You didn't expect it, I'm assuming. And it just shows that Smite Esports right now is so big that anyone can win. It's not just the top 2 teams anymore, which I'm so happy about it. It's the top 4 teams that all can take games off each other easily, and then we're going to add even more teams that potentially are going to be able to be thrown into the mix as well.
Well, speaking about more teams, we went into the launch tournament. We had a very strong team named Denial, and they had a very strong showing, and the players were. In fact, we have one of the previous players in the office now.
In our headsets right now.
That's right. In our headsets right now, we have him playing, and it's interesting to see the progression, right? Because we had these top tier players in a team. Denial, of course, disbanded. They reformed into 5 Angry Men. And we watched 5 Angry Men throughout the all 10 weeks of the qualifiers leading up to the Pro League kickoff. And we were really excited with their performance level. Unfortunately, they have since disbanded again. And now it is Wolfie holding the reins with him just putting team members together.
He's just like throwing together whoever he can. Ranked players that he knows, his friends. I know Nanton is a good friend of his. He gave him a shot, and this all kind of triggered after Shing left Snipe for Dignitas, and the whole roster, the slew of roster changes we saw. Pain Deviant ended up going to a European team, Exposed Secrets, and that's what broke up 5 Angry Men. After that, Rushed ended up quitting. And then it was Madman Mark. Just I don't know where he went or if he's playing for anyone.
Mysterious.
Madman Mark's a big question mark. Mace to the Face did play for 5 Angry Men in the last week of play-ins, week 2, but he has since said, I was just filling in. This isn't my team. It's Wolfie's now. I just filled in because he needed a mid at the time. So it's Wolfie, and it's what is he going to do with it? And, you know, he hasn't had much success. He's been through a variety of teams, always in that 3rd and 4th seed.
Right.
And now he's a team captain, and it's what can he really bring to it in that team captain role?
Well, you know, it's exciting, right? Because we have the Challenger Cup beginning.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ways for teams to get into the World Championship and really compete for the biggest prize pool we've ever seen in Smite. In fact, one of the top 10 prize pools in the history of esports in general.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely a lot of options here. Now, the fact that they're completely out of the Pro League, they're not going to have a chance to come back in. They're locked out for the play-ins as well. Their chances are going to be the Challenger Cup, which, of course, will run the duration up until the Regional Championship. So that's going to be the next step for them, is looking for that. But again, you know, is this something that they really want to do? I mean, Wolfie, like you were mentioning, he was on, he was on Reason, which was 4th place, last place.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you were on Reason as well, and we
Thanks.
have one more over there.
Thanks for
I mean, we also just sent it out here.
You could have just said 4th. No, you changed 4th to
it
last.
It was
you
last place at
it.
the PAX Prime Invitational, which, of course, was $20,000. We saw a pretty good showing there. I mean, it's always kind of like on the cusp of being the top, right? Going to Snipe Gaming, Snipe didn't really perform, up to the top as well. And then now he's on Fine Big Green Men of what's left of it. So anyway, as we follow Wolfie's journey throughout esports, it seems like he's had trouble kind of finding his footing.
Yep.
So, maybe, I mean, I think that the fact that all the 6 top teams in both regions are now removed into the Pro League, there's a lot more room for teams to rise to the top there in the Challengers Cup. So, I'm going to go ahead and give him a little bit of a vote of confidence and push up towards the top of the Challenger Cup. But
well, they're actually still in the play-in, running for the play-ins. And the reasoning is that they're still checking in Mace to the Face and some of the members, and that's why they're still able to play in the play-ins. So they still, I think they're going to make it in the play-ins personally.
You think they're going to make the Pro League?
I think they're going to make the Pro League.
I've already got my heart set on Challengers Cup. I don't see them
they're going to bottom out. I mean, you were just saying it like they're already done.
I don't see it. Now, the other thought, right, is going to be late bloomers and Torch, and whether or not they're going to be able to come to the top there, of course, with the score. Now, they have an easier shot, but I think they're going to the Challengers Cup.
Okay. So for my play-in too, I think it will be Fat Chunk.
Okay.
They're just so dominant in North America right now.
That's
3-0.
guaranteed.
They bring out the crazy strategies. They bring out the Nuwa, Finrio dual lane. Obviously, Nuwa's changed. Maybe they won't run that anymore. But they will. I call them the kings of cheese because they will play anything. They've played 5 hyper carries, not necessarily assassins. Like they played a Hebo, Merc, Freya, Thor, Ao Kwong game against Dignitas in a casually competitive tournament, brought them to the edge of their seats, and they threw it at the end. But they're going to play anything to win and anything to surprise people. It's kind of like what you said earlier. Being malleable is one of the most important things in Smite right now. So I think Fat Chunks definitely have that. And I think Torch and Late Bloomers, they're just a little bit too weak. They're going to be good Challengers Cup teams that can grow from there. But right now, none of their players have the competitive or ranked experience they need to really dominate. Over in Europe, I think Walk It Off is the strongest team, hands down. I actually think they're a top 3 SPL team once that goes live. The roster that they've drafted and kind of the path they took, stealing iRapper away from I5, and now with Sayo in their solo lane instead of Solana, I think they are one of the strongest rosters in Europe and a very hungry team. I think they're going to go undefeated through the whole thing. I think Fat Chunk may drop a game. But I think Walk It Off is going to go undefeated. And then it kind of comes down to Heroes and Zeros is out in Europe. I think they're 0-3. They literally have to win every game, and it has to be a 4-way tie for them to be back in it. So it comes down to really Exposed Secrets versus Agilitas. And I really like both these teams, and I think Agilitas is a good enough team to deserve to get in. But I think Exposed Secrets, I know I've been wishy-washy about them. They're the players they've had didn't perform to what we all expected. They were kind of a dream team coming into the qualifiers and just fell flat. I think they're going to make it into the SPL, though. I think they're strong enough.
I agree, and I think that's the biggest thing for EU is it's kind of like the history, right? They've always had depth. They've always had really strong teams. And beyond that, I think the biggest thing is that, it's not so much that they're going to make it in the Pro League. They also have a good chance of competing in the Pro League. I mean, they're just playing that well. So Walk It Off, definitely one of my favorite votes as well. And I think the Pro League is something that's just definitely going really, really into it. And something that can just kind of just come together to be this big competition, right? As we saw with the NA Pro League kickoff, that there's just even 4th seed has a chance.
Yeah.
And just watching the Pro Leagues as they start pretty shortly here in just about 2 weeks, we'll see the beginning of it. Everything really just kind of come up to the point where every single game is a game you want to watch, and every single game is the game that you really have to pay attention to. So that's a great way for us to go right into it. I mean, what are your predictions for the Smite Pro League?
So I'm gonna start in EU because I kind of already touched on it. Walk It Off is gonna become a top 3 team instantly. I think they're gonna be a top 2 team by the time we get into the wild card and into regionals for Worlds. I think Walk It Off is a great team, and I think with Cloud9 having reformed into their new team, I think they're still good enough to be in the SPL, but they're significantly weaker than TSM and Walk It Off, and I think they're just really strong right now. SK is also going to be up. I think EU is going to be way more hotly contested than North America. I think Europe is going to be crazy. There's a lot of really good Coast too. I can't.
Coast. I think that C9 is going to be 5th or 6th.
Okay.
I think they're going to drop down to the bottom. I don't think they're going to be able to perform. I mean, here's the thing, right? And this is the way I've always seen C9. I think I look at C9 as Sayo.
I do.
Sayo and Youngbei, and then them just kind of going through. Sayo is the one. He was the glue. So you remove Sayo out of that, and you jumble the players around. All of a sudden, that wow factor is not there anymore, and I feel like they're going to drop down to 5th or 6th almost immediately in the first few weeks. So I don't see that, but definitely Coast, definitely SK, Walk It Off performing incredibly well, and it's a little bit unfortunate, right? They kind of formed Walk It Off towards the end after the qualifiers and everything. It's just definitely a very high top tier team. But jumping right into NA, of course, I mean. Or I imagine if Fat Chuck and Simple is going to be there. It's pretty much locked in. Okay. We'll see if Five-Burger Manor is able to make it and how well they perform. It's possible, and that would be the other thing. But now we have this jumble, right, where we have COG Prime, COG Red, Dignitas coming together as the top teams, and Snipe, of course. Now, we saw a roster change as well. Snipe lost Shing and went to Dig. Dig ended up finishing 2nd with Anatoly, not Shing. So Shing is going to be taking over for the solo lane for Dig, and now Shing is going to be their forefront. So with him jumping in, I think give him 3 or 4 weeks, I think they're really going to push up. And what I'd like to see as well is the Dig that I saw at the LAN was a very weak Dig. I think they played incredibly poorly. I think they missed way too many opportunities, and I think they didn't really seem like they came out prepared. More specifically, Zatman and Lassus, the two players you like to look at for Dig, highly underperforming in the LAN. High amounts of deaths, missing a lot of skill shots.
Lassus had the most deaths by far. He averaged 6 or 7 deaths a game.
Well, we can bring up the stats here and see exactly how things worked out. As far as the deaths go, Lassus was on 46 deaths, which, yes, that is the highest amount of deaths in the entire tournament. Overall, and it was actually Lassus and Zatman both had
the top
most deaths to Lassus, second most to Zatman.
Yeah.
The kill death ratios were very low. In fact, the highest performing on the team was the best. Next after that was Shadowq, and then the third after that was Anatoly. Anatoly actually outperforming Zatman and Lassus in the tournament overall. So I think there's a lot of work to be done there, and Shing may be the restorative factor that they need in Dig. COG Prime, again, very rigid, very slow to move, and kind of picking up the pace they need. And I'd like to see COG Red kind of come out in the Pro League start and show what they can be made of, but at the same time, we do have Fat Chunk to look at.
So in North America, for me, I think Snipe is going to be the biggest question mark for everyone, because I honestly think their team is better right now. I think changing out for Weekend and then Kiki for Wolfie, and they've had 3 roster changes, and right now I think they're better than they've ever been. And Weekend, I know Weekend, and I have a little bit of bias towards Weekend. I know him; he's a good friend, but he is definitely going to make that team and really give them a synergy that they need. I think he's going to be a glue. I don't think Shing is glue. I think Weekend is a glue, and I think he's really going to bring Snipe together, and I think they're going to become a very dominant team in North America, more so than you've seen them be. In addition to that, Dignitas with Shing instead, I don't know. I think Dignitas just is starting to have cracks. I don't know if Shing. I think Shing's going to be better than Anatoly about midway through the season. I think he'll be a better solo laner. He's been practicing harder than I've seen him ever practice on Snipe. But I think there's cracks in Dignitas now, and I kind of want to see where it goes from there. But they're still a top team. You're still going to see a lot of wins. COG Prime as well, still going to be up there. One thing about COG Red is Divio's played better than he has ever played.
Yes.
And that may be to the fact that he's West Coast, so he had the 0 ping.
Right.
Now he's going to be online again back in West Coast.
One thing about COG Red,
the
big thing is that the top performers in COG Red were Boosh and Gars. and they dominated everything. Divios, and here's the way I look at Divios. Divios played well, but what Divios did during the LAN is he did his job.
Okay.
He did the solo lane, he made good plays, and he was there. I think the stars were Gars, and I think it was Boosh, and Boosh really came out and said, hey, hello world, I'm actually pretty good at this game. And he started just kicking butt, and the biggest thing is that, here's the idea, and I talked to COG Prime before going into the semi-finals there, and the biggest thing that COG Prime said is we have to shut down Gars early. If we can do that, we can do well. So I think there's a big chance here for, and this is what sometimes happens, a new team that comes out that has different strategies or players that aren't as well known, sometimes you just don't know how to play against them, whereas you go against the veterans, you know exactly how to shut them down, as we saw with Dignitas, very well-known players that have very well-known play styles that you can kind of shut down in specific ways. But then they saw Boost, they shot Gars, and like, I mean, they've been around, but have they ever been to the point where you can get them down to a science yet? I don't think so. And so this was something fresh, something new that kind of slowed down the pace of other teams. And I think really, if you're looking at Red, I think it's going to be Gars and Boosh.
Okay. I do think Boosh was the MVP of that tournament, hands down.
Sure.
No contest. Gars carried a significant amount of games too. I think the reason that they came out with that is I believe Gars is one of the best players to play from ahead, and I think he's one of the worst competitive players from when he's behind. He cannot. He's a player who has a rough time getting back into the game, whereas someone like Lassus, I think, is one of the better players that can come back from behind. Gars has a lot of a tougher time.
Sure. Well, we also talked a little bit about Snipe, and Allied is also a great person to talk about. He plays incredibly well from behind and even better from ahead.
I think his late game is the best, one of the best in the game. His positioning is top tier once he hits that level 20 mark, but his laning phase is definitely his weakness right now.
Sure.
I mean, if him and Incon can sort that
out.
out.
I'd even simplify it even more. I think his only weakness is his ability to get gold. I think he's just not a good farmer, and I think if Allied takes the skills that he has and puts that into figuring out how to get more gold over time, I think he's going to be one of the strongest hunters we have in the game right now. And he statistically plays better than any other hunter in NA from behind and plays incredibly well and even better from ahead. So I think if he figures out a way, because his GPM is the lowest out of all the hunters in competitive play right now, he just does not farm well. He doesn't get that gold number up. So I think that even more simply than just the laning phase, I think he just does not know how to keep the numbers up, some of the more well-known hunters can. But I think overall we have a lot of competition across the board with every single one of these teams here. And if you're wondering how you can watch these the events coming up next, of course, with the conclusion of the qualifiers and the conclusion of the Kick Off LANs, we'll also be going into the Pro League at the start of the Challengers Cup, which will be happening at the exact same time as the normal tournaments happen Saturday, Sunday. But this will be the exclusion of the top 6 teams in NA and EU, and so this will be all the teams below. So if you're thinking that you're capable of being in the competition of Smite Esports right now, this is your chance. Sign up for the Challengers Cup on the weekends, NA on Saturday, EU on Sunday. The Pro League, the Smite Pro League, the first season of the Smite Pro League will be kicking off in just about 2 weeks here. August 27th is set to be the start date of that. You'll be seeing content every towards the end of the week and always through the weekend as well. Tons and tons of matches. You're going to see a lot of content from us all throughout the weekday, Wednesday through Sunday. And stay tuned to Smite Game as well as the esports site, esports.smitegame.com, for more information and details on how the schedule will end up being laid out. But we have a lot of content coming up, and you definitely want to be a part of it, and we'll be tracking along with it. And with those predictions and the fact that we covered the play-ins, the play-ins will be happening this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, to see which 2 teams from the play-ins will be making it into the Pro League and which 2 teams will be forced to fight their way through the Challengers Cup. Coming up this weekend, 12 p.m. start time on Saturday for the NA version of the play-ins. Going to be starting on Smite Twitch right here on twitch.tv/SmiteGame.
11 for the pregame show with me and Kelly.
Oh, 11 a.m. is we're going to start turning in for that to see the predictions, the stats, the lead-ins, and getting ready for the play-ins on Sunday, starting at 9 a.m.
EST? Or are you talking about 8 a.m. for the pregame show? There we go. I didn't know if that's what we were going with.
I was like,
I was like, are you talking about like for time zone or pregame show for that?
8 a.m. for the pregame show there on Sunday, 9 a.m. for the start. It's going to be the EU version of the play-ins. Tune in right here and get ready for the conclusion of the play-ins to see who's going to make it into the Pro League. And with that, for myself as well as HiRezAdanas, we're going to be signing off here. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hopefully you enjoyed the releases of the patch notes earlier, of course, and a little bit of the talk about what's going on in the Smite Esports world. And for everyone here in the studio, as well as everyone involved in Smite Esports and all the people that make things happen, we'll see you later.